Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Heinz and Clark podcast. If this is your first time here, I'm Aaron. This is Steve. We'll introduce the guy in green in a second. We are accountants. Our podcast is to help making tax, investment, and finance and current market topics easier to understand. And I'll let Steve take away the introduction.
As Aaron said, I'm Steve Heinz. This is our third podcast. Our first one had over 100 views within like a day or two, so it's a good thing you got a big family.
Yeah, I watched it a few times too. A bunch of different computers, cell phone.
We have our first guest on our podcast today. This is Chris Peterson, neighbor of mine, friend of ours, and maybe not an expert in crypto, but from my multiple times in talking with him over a few adult beverages, very knowledgeable about it. I know he spends a lot of time learning about it, so he's here to help educate us. I should clarify that this is for educational purposes only. If you lose all your money, it's not our fault.
It's Chris's.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
So, Chris, anything else you want to add about yourself before we kind of jump into the topic and what we're going to talk about today?
No, thanks for inviting me, Aaron and Steve, on the show. I'm excited about this topic. I do want to emphasize as well that I'm a student of the topic as well still. This is something that I am very interested in, but learning about. I've invested some of my own money in it. I've invested more of my own time in it. And I think it's a new enough subject, but one that's going to have an impact on the future of the entire world going forward, that it's better we all start getting more educated on it, because it is certainly not the least complicated subject we could be talking about.
Yeah, and so that subject is cryptocurrency. And I think, the history of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin was all the rage 5-6 years ago, and then it seemed like it kind of went away. Definitely come back. More and more currencies seem to be coming out. The Staples Center is recently renamed to Crypto.com. Did I get that right?
Yep.
I was texting Chris actually on, I think it was around on Thanksgiving, the last football game, if you watched football that day. In the last football game, there was a commercial with Tom Brady. Tom Brady was trading crypto in the commercials, so I don't think this is just a flash. I think it's here to stay. So what we're going to talk about, we're going to just kind of do a little Q&A here. Chris is going to help educate us on what some terms mean and some of those types of things, and various ways of investing or making money in hopefully making money in cryptocurrency. And then we're here to help kind of plug the gaps for the tax side and kind of explain what to look out for from the tax piece of it too. So with that, I think we're going to jump in. I think let's start with, I think the two biggest, most popular cryptocurrencies are Bitcoin and Ethereum. Mm-hmm. And I know from talking to you that there's a difference in those as well too. So maybe you want to just give us a little bit of a background on that.
Sure, and I think probably before we even go into that, the best thing to do would be to say, talk about what is cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency is a currency, but it's a virtual currency. So even though you see like the Bitcoin symbol that kind of looks like a piece of gold, cryptocurrency exists 100% in cyberspace. There is no physical representation of cryptocurrency. Why it's a currency is because, just like any other currency, it can be exchanged. Why it's called crypto is due to the cryptography behind the security of how cryptocurrency is essentially exchanged, how it's mined, how it's secured. So to look at Bitcoin, for example, and I think that's the best one. That was created, I believe, in 2009. And what Bitcoin really is it's a way to, it's a form of payment that can be transacted between individuals across the globe. Anybody with an internet connection can send and receive Bitcoin, and on an exchange or different servers, you can buy it as well. How Bitcoin works is, and how cryptocurrencies work really, or I should say most, is the idea of decentralization. So when we look at a bank, and let's say I have Wells Fargo, and Aaron uses Farmers State Bank of Hamel. I actually use Farmers State Bank.
Yeah, I use Wells Fargo, but
So we're swapping roles here. So
I'm already confused.
when I'm gonna send Aaron $50, and my ledger at Wells Fargo is gonna say $50 is leaving my account, and it's now gonna show up at Farmers State Bank of Hamel in Aaron's account, and that's gonna say Aaron now has $50. Chris does not have $50. That's going through a centralized banking system that verifies these transactions. The difference with Bitcoin is that it's decentralized. Now, how people ask, do you verify these transactions? How they're verified is through a network of computers across the world that people have opted into. We can call them machines. They're essentially sophisticated computers. They used to just be a regular, IBM or Dell you could do it on. Now you need what are called ASIC miners usually, but you need a special computer that essentially is verifying these transactions to everybody across the world.
So Chris,
Yep.
just to stop you there, because so in my mind, this right over the top of it.
Yep.
But so is what you're saying is it just literally like a computer log of all the information?
Exactly. So it's a public ledger. So if you wanted to tap into the Bitcoin network and let's say be a miner, which I can get into that topic in a second, you buy one of these machines. It's called a validator. You download all of the information. So you download literally every transaction that's happened on the Bitcoin blockchain, another term we'll get into in a second,
Okay.
since 2009. What that public ledger shows is all the transactions, and now every time transactions are made, your computer is essentially putting forth computing power and using electricity to verify that these transactions are taking place. And what that does is by having this wide decentralized network, if 99.9% of them are saying Chris sent $50 to Aaron and 0.01% is saying something funny is going on, they're going to disregard that 0.01%. So what the decentralization does is it actually creates a very secure way where you have a bunch of anonymous users essentially using computing power to say that these transactions are legitimate or not.
So question to that, and
Yep.
we've got a script, and I'm sure I'm going way off of it. But so to that, uncertainty. People that get uncertain about Bitcoin, crypto,
Yep.
these are just, they're in the air, right?
Yep,
Like,
yep.
You send me $50 in Wells Fargo, I see the next day $50 is
Yep.
in there. Now, one can make an argument, I go and use my credit card, my debit card, it's like I've never had any money.
Right.
Theory there, but people get concerned about this, but you're telling me, like with Bitcoin, it's not just one computer
So there's
verifying this, it could be infinity. And so you're literally bouncing information from multiple data sources essentially
Yep.
to confirm the same one thing happening.
to confirm the same one thing happening. And that's when people talk about mining, that's all mining really is. Mining is the idea that you're taking your computer, you're tapping into the Bitcoin network in this public ledger, and you are mining. All mining really means is proof of work. Proof of work means that your computer is working towards the Bitcoin network to validate transactions.
Okay.
If you have 10,000 of these computers working, you're going to earn exponentially more Bitcoin. If there's only 20,000 computers working in the whole world, that 10,000 will look pretty good. So for example, when China started banning Bitcoin for the 1 millionth time, what really happened is now a lot of those computers in China have moved to Texas and other parts of the world because those computers, what they're essentially doing is as they're validating those transactions, you get fractions of a Bitcoin for that. So that's where the incentivized nature of crypto comes in, is by you participating in the network and putting forth your computing power and your electricity, you are tapping into the ability to then pull a little of that currency. And that applies to not just Bitcoin, but a lot of other cryptocurrencies. Bitcoin is an easy one to understand. It's the first
Most popular.
most popular, and that's essentially that's mining, that's validating. That's why you would tap into the network, and why it is, and by using that cryptography to secure it and having all of these anonymous people. A lot of people have trusted centralization forever, and what happens, and we'll hear a lot of FUD, as they call it, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, around crypto being used for illicit purposes. The truth is it's not anonymous, it's pseudonymous in terms of these transactions, which means that if I'm a criminal, my address is still going to be visible. My crypto address where I'm sending and receiving money is still very visible. So where, they say about 5% of, illicit transactions, are cash related, less than 1% are crypto related. Now, is it a little harder to find those people? It can be, but they also have literally a breadcrumb trail that leads to where these transactions are taking place. So you might not be able to see that it was Aaron Clark that did it, but you could see that it was Aaron Clark's wallet address that did it.
So this is really good. I think we're getting a lot of terms that we're going to kind of circle back to on the tax side of this. But a couple more. So blockchain.
Blockchain, great. Yep, great. So blockchain is just a means of I guess storing data, and so with Bitcoin, it's a filing system. But instead of the regular filing system where you have kind of a matrix of information everywhere, but blockchain there's a picture of block. This block says that Chris gave Aaron $50. That block is now full. The next block comes up and it says Aaron gave Steve $20. That block is full. The next block goes up. But that is immutable, meaning that you can't go back and change those blocks. So it is the blockchain in many instances, and this is why people, and not just in cryptocurrency, but companies are looking at blockchain technology, because it creates a very public and a very secure ledger of everything that's taken place over the course of time.
Is it all linear?
It's all linear.
So it's okay.
Yep, it's all linear. It's going in one direction, and you can, different protocols. People can, a Bitcoin block might be smaller than a block of a different protocol. But Bitcoin is not blockchain. Blockchain is a type of technology that Bitcoin uses as a means of executing on transactions.
What other systems would use a blockchain? Just maybe it resonates with somebody to understand it in what they do.
You could use a blockchain for voting. I hope we get to that someday. You could use blockchain you could use a geofence, essentially take IP addresses around a city, let's call it Medina, Minnesota. You put a geofence around there and you say, we have some legislation we want to get passed, we have an ordinance we want to get passed to do something. They could tally those votes in a blockchain that pings to a certain address. It would be IP related somewhat in terms of where it goes, but they could basically create their own coin. And their City Coins is actually doing this now. You create a coin where only the people in Medina get that coin, and you could program that coin to say you only get one vote for this. And then the blockchain would say, okay, Aaron voted, Steve voted, Chris voted. And you could literally go through the population. It could do one click or 2 clicks or whatever and get to a place where you have an immutable blockchain that people can look and they can say there was no fraud here. And we also were able to program exactly who lived in the city, where it was coming from. I mean, as far as using it for illicit purposes, in theory, governments could use that as a means of greater control over its population. But if we trust humans to beat that, it really is it can bring freedom. And then blockchain is a way to rely on a computer and a filing system that can't be corrupted, or at least is very difficult to be corrupted.
I think that was a great example. I think the voting one really kind of made it more clear for me.
Yep.
How about Ethereum? So I know that's probably one of the other popular ones, and I know that's different from Bitcoin, and maybe just kind of touch on the differences there.
Yep. So Ethereum is a protocol. It was created by a guy named Vitalik Buterin, who everybody will be a household name someday. It was him and a group of other people. Vitalik, it should be known, co-created Bitcoin Magazine. He was big into Bitcoin early on. He understood the blockchain. What he saw with Ethereum and with Bitcoin is he said, okay, Bitcoin is really cool for transactions, but what if we used similar technology to allow for creating this security layer of blockchain. But rather than just saying we're just going to move money back and forth, we're going to create a secure layer, the Ethereum layer, using the Ethereum virtual machine is what it's called right now, of blockchain that allows anybody to take that code, anybody that knows how to write code, take that code and then create their own protocols on top of it. Protocol, maybe a better word, dApps, they're called. So decentralized application. So picture, I use this analogy, it might not be the best one, and I'm sure there's plenty of crypto experts that would say this is wrong, but one way to explain it would be to say Ethereum is like the iPhone operating system, and it allows for people to take the iPhone operating system and build applications that can run on the iOS or on the iOS operating system or the iPhone. So what Ethereum has done is created a base layer of security that now allows these decentralized applications. Again, decentralization is key. That's what makes all these different than any other regular set of applications that, for example, the App Store is run by Apple. And their code is proprietary to themselves, right? Even open source Android is not the same as decentralization. So you have these apps that you build, and now those apps, they can go and do whatever they want to do. They can go and you can create gambling apps. There's an app called Augur, for example, that you can bet on what who the president is going to be, and what Ethereum, beyond that base layer protocol, is what it's actually doing is creating something called smart contracts. And a smart contract is literally just a contract based on code that when you write that contract, if I say I'm going to come work for this construction company and I'm going to try and sell construction jobs, and we're going to use this application run on Ethereum, we're going to create a smart contract, and every time I sell a job over $1 million, I get paid 5%. Every time I sell a job over $2 million, I get paid 3%. Whatever that commission is, and all of it is logged, let's say through this application, through this smart contract that's running on the Ethereum network. There is no lawyer, there's no CPA, there's nobody that can jump in there and say, no, you can't do that. It's all baked into the code, and it executes immediately. So when just like a computer program, when A plus B connect here, C happens, and it's done, and it moves on. And then you apply that to a blockchain. So you have a smart contract, a blockchain, now it's moving forward. It creates a wealth of opportunities for people to honestly do whatever they want and rely on the code of the contract, which requires a lot. I mean, you could write a contract that's junk and it's paying out the way nobody wants it to. And you're stuck with that, and you have to decide you're going to move off of that. But what it ultimately does to me, or the potential it offers, is to allow human beings to be able to create their own contracts amongst themselves, amongst some random person in Australia or Africa or China, and execute on their own rails based on their own set of rules that they agree to, and can all be publicly seen, but is not controlled by somebody that can come in and say, you didn't specify this or you didn't specify that, and go to court and spend $50,000 with two attorneys arguing over the interpretation of what everybody knows was probably the case in the first place.
No offense to attorneys.
No offense to attorneys. but I mean, so yeah, I mean, with CPAs, I mean, with a lot of this, you can write smart contracts. So Ethereum I went off on a tangent there. Ethereum is a platform for writing smart contracts that allow other application writers and protocols to build on top of it. When you look at all the other cryptocurrencies right now, a lot of them are Ethereum based. So you've got Ethereum, you've got another one called Solana, you've got Cardano, you've got Avalanche. These are all essentially copies of Ethereum, but with different types of protocols written. Like Solana uses a proof of history. So it goes back and looks at the blockchain. They use, I don't understand them all, but they use different forms, and then on those forms, the applications can be written. So you could be part of the Solana community, and Aaron Clark goes and you're writing smart contracts on Solana. And I'm part of the Ethereum community, and I'm writing smart contracts, or I'm writing applications on Ethereum. So there's this kind of multi-blockchain ecosystem happening right now where it's almost like, you know, Microsoft, Windows, and you know, Apple and 10 others, and then, you know, Android operating. You got all these operating systems where different people are writing code on, and some people think one's going to win out over the other. I personally think it's going to wind up being, and a lot of people think this too, is an ecosystem where these different all wind up connecting.
So maybe, because I'm confused, you can probably see on my face. Maybe really quickly to try and see if I have any clue or concept of what you just said. It sounds like Ethereum is essentially the system. Let's take Heinz & Clark, for example, right? Heinz & Clark develops a system. Now, it's two different types of system. We have system processes in place. You've got other groups out there that want to take advantage of the systems and processes we've put. Oh man, these are great. They are great.
They would be.
And so they develop an app to take part of that, or like.
So let's say your system is
like our contractor comes in.
Great question. So let's say your system is Minnesota tax code.
Okay.
And that's your base layer. We'll call that your Ethereum is, you know all about Minnesota tax code, and your systems and the way you've written this contract, people like a TurboTax, people can plug in all their information as an S corp in Minnesota, and it will spit out you know, the best possible scenario for taxes, right?
Right.
So Heinz & Clark have written that. Now, you guys have a really good system, and in Minnesota it works really well. And actually, it works really well. The different fundamentals you put into that system work really well. I want to make that system for California. I don't want to reinvent what you guys just did, but I do need to plug in some different types of information because we have different tax laws. So I might be using your system processes and the different things you're using, maybe, for example, that tie into the federal tax code, right? But you have different pieces. Well, they could essentially come over then and say, we're going to build on the Heinz Clark blockchain, and we're going to make an application that is going to incorporate all the security layer, which Ethereum essentially, why people are banking on Ethereum is because it's so decentralized, and their whole community and their mantra is so committed to not allowing centralized powers to corrupt them that it makes it very secure.
Okay.
You guys could say, you know what, this is our system, it's set in place, we're not going to change it unless the tax code changes. Now somebody comes in from California, they bump into the system, somebody comes in from Colorado, New York, Florida, and it all starts to work for them. They've made some adjustments to it, but they're still building on the Heinz & Clark base layer.
Okay. Cool.
So let's talk about exchanges.